I remember that moment clearer than I remember my own wedding vows. It is funny now, in a way that makes your stomach turn. Like realizing the punchline of a joke everyone else already knew. Caroline had just gotten home from one of her business trips. She tossed her suitcase by the door like always, kicked off her heels, stretched like she had just run a marathon, and said the words that stuck with me longer than anything else. Things got out of control. I'm just exhausted. Exhausted. She wore it like a trophy. Worn out from meetings that ran late, from some demanding client, from the pressure of making her boss happy at dinner, so they would not lose a contract. That is what she told me, glass of wine in hand, as she sank into the couch like someone who had been carrying the weight of the world. But when I asked about the dinner, there was a pause. A hesitation, just long enough to be noticeable. "Oh, you know how those things go," she said, brushing it off with a shrug. "You have to make the client feel special." That was the moment I felt the first crack. The rest of the night passed without incident. We watched something on the television, kissed goodnight, slept together like two people playing roles they had not rehearsed in a while. She was too quiet afterward. When she fell asleep, I just lay there, staring up into the dark, wondering if she had always been this far away, or if I had only now started to see it. The next morning, I did not know what I was looking for, but I found it anyway. She was still in the shower. I figured I would help with the laundry like I always did. Caroline hated unpacking, said it made the trip feel too final. I pulled open her suitcase, started sorting through clothes. Then I unzipped the smaller inner pocket. There was a room service receipt, 2 meals, 1 bottle of Cabernet, just before midnight. I was not with her, and she does not eat red meat. The next thing I found was worse. Inside the side pocket of her toiletry bag, folded neatly, was a condom wrapper, unused, still intact, sitting there like it had been placed for effect. Caroline had an IUD. We had not used condoms in years. I did not say anything to her. Not yet. There is a line between suspicion and proof. And I was not looking for a fight. I was building a case. 2 weeks later, she had another trip. Same client, she said. Important deal, long-term relationship potential. Might need to go the extra mile to make it happen. She said that last part while sipping coffee, like it meant staying late for a PowerPoint presentation. What exactly does that mean? I asked, not bothering to hide the edge of my voice. She laughed, tossed her hair like it was nothing. "Relax," she said. "Just long nights, dinner meetings, maybe some extra charm. Nothing sketchy. Promise." And that is when I knew it was sketchy, because she felt the need to promise. By the time she packed her bags, I had already installed a tracker on her phone, synced her messages, set up a cloud backup she would never know about. She had never been great with technology. I knew where she kept her passwords, scribbled inside the back of her planner, next to her grocery lists. That night, I sat in the dark with a drink and read through her texts. Nothing graphic, but the hints were loud enough. She kept referring to someone as M. No full name, just an initial. He wants to go out again. I do not know how much longer I can stall. Joy says this account is too important. We cannot afford to lose him. I will keep him happy. And then the one that hit like a gut punch. I hate this part, but it is just one night. Then we get the deal. She did not say no. She did not protest. She justified. She said she was tired. Said it all got overwhelming. I sat with those words on the screen for a long time, trying to understand how it had come to this. I had backed her up with the kids. Canceled travel of my own so she could chase the career she said she loved. I believed her when she said she was just networking. I believed her when she said just dinner. But this was not dinner. This was not work. This was betrayal, dressed up in a pantsuit and expense to the company. And I knew it was not the end. By the time Caroline's return flight landed that Friday, I already had everything I needed. The tracker said she had stayed in room 928 at a hotel downtown. Not the one her company usually used. Not the one listed in her schedule. But that was not even the worst part. At 2:07 in the morning, her phone pinged again. Rideshare confirmed. Destination, a residential address. His address, Mark Devereaux, age 46, founder and CEO of a tech firm. Divorced, no kids, plenty of money, confident, smug, the kind of guy who had his suits custom fitted and his words rehearsed. That was the man she was supposed to keep happy. Saturday morning, I played the part. Made pancakes for the kids. Smiled. Poured her coffee. She came downstairs looking rested, peaceful in the way people only are after a good night's sleep. Or after something else. She stood at the window, holding her mug, staring outside. "How was the trip?" I asked. She let out a long breath. "Tiring. But we landed the deal." Joy's thrilled. I raised my cup. "Congratulations. You earned it." She took a slow sip, her fingers barely steady. She did not notice. But I did. After breakfast, she went back upstairs to unwind. I slipped in her home office. Took her laptop. Cloned her email. But the real prize was in her notebook. She always took notes by hand, a habit from her early days in business. Page 42 held a rundown of dinner talking points, a list of client names, and underneath a sketch of 2 wine glasses she had written, "If I sleep with him, it is done." Joy said he is locked in. I hate that I agreed. I did not need more. That line was the end of whatever story we had. She had made a choice. This was not something that got away from her. It was planned. Calculated, labeled necessary, and written down like a bullet point on a to-do list. She did not trip into infidelity. She scheduled it. Later that night, we had friends over. The house was full of laughter and the smell of grilled meat. Kids ran barefoot through the yard. The grown-ups raised glasses. Caroline laughed like she had not broken anything at all. She gave a toast to big wins at work and new beginnings. And all I could think about was what she had traded for that applause. As everyone was leaving, one of the wives, half tipsy, leaned in and whispered, "You are lucky, you know." Most men would kill to have a wife who was as dedicated as Caroline. She would do anything for her career. Anything. That word echoed through me. When the house was quiet again, and the kids were asleep, Caroline curled up next to me in bed. Soft, cautious, like she was hoping closeness could erase what she had done. Her hand slipped beneath the covers. Searching for forgiveness she did not earn. I let her, not because I forgave her, because I needed to feel just how wrong it had all become. The emptiness, the cold mechanics of it. I needed to know what a lie felt like when it touched my skin. She whispered, "I missed you." I whispered back, "I know." She fell asleep with a satisfied sigh. But I stayed awake, running every move through my head like I was already deep into the final act of a long game of chess. I had the name, the room, the ride, the words written in her own hand. But I was not done yet, not even close. I was not after smooth separation. I did not want a clean break or quiet closure. What I wanted was exposure. I wanted her life, her job, her polished reputation, her well-practiced image of the working mother, to unravel in the open. I wanted her to feel exactly what she had done to me. Backed into a corner. Stripped bare. Lied to. I was finished pretending. Done making excuses for her. But first, I had to let her feel secure again. Just long enough to build the trap she would not see coming. The week that followed was precise. Controlled. Every move was deliberate. Like taking apart an explosive device, one bad cut, and everything blows. But I was not in a rush. I had waited this long. I could wait a bit longer now that I had my thumb on her pressure point. Caroline thought I still trusted her. That was the real trick. She had fed me just enough detail from her last trip to paint a picture. Tough clients, late nights, meetings that dragged. Her sighs were tired. Her smiles just faded enough to sell the role of a hard-working wife stretched thin. But I caught the performance. She thought I had accepted it. She thought I believed her. She had no idea what I already knew. That Wednesday, I told her I could not pick up the kids after school. Said work had me buried. The truth? I was parked across the street from her office with a coffee in one hand and a camera in the other. Her routine ran like clockwork. Coffee around 9:15. Morning meetings. Lunch at a trendy little spot on the corner. That day I saw him. Mark Devereaux. He joined her at the restaurant. I watched through a dark window as they leaned toward each other across the table, smiling like old lovers. That was all the confirmation I needed. This was not a one-time lapse. Not a desperate mistake. This was consistent. Practiced. Comfortable. I clicked away with the camera, capturing everything. His hand brushed hers. She laughed and touched his arm like it was second nature. Like I was not even part of the equation anymore. That night, over dinner, she told me they were nearly done onboarding the new client. She left out the part where his hand had rested on her thigh. Joy want me to meet with him again on Friday, she said. Nothing formal. Just dinner. Keep things moving. I set my fork down slowly. You have really earned her trust. She smiled, careful and measured. I'm just doing what I need to do. I raised my wine glass. I am proud of you. Her eyes dropped for a moment before she smiled. It was faint, something between pride and guilt. I watched the flicker behind her eyes. It was then I understood how she had managed to live both lives. She had compartmentalized it, built walls between her lies and her day-to-day. Maybe, in her own mind, it really was for the family, for our future, for some noble sacrifice. But that kind of thinking, that was what made her dangerous. I had to go deeper. Friday came. She stepped out of the bedroom in a navy dress I had not seen in years. Low-cut, elegant, not client dinner attire. More like, I know where this night ends attire. You look incredible, I told her. She did a little spin, grinning. You think so? I would cancel your plans just to keep you here. She laughed. Light breathy. Do not tempt me. Then she kissed my cheek and walked out the door. By 11:42 p.m., I had already followed her to the Grandfield Hotel downtown. Same place as before. Different room number. The location tracker on her phone told me where to find her. I parked 2 buildings away, then walked the alley until I had a clear line of sight to the balcony on the 11th floor. There they were, her and Mark, wine glasses in hand. Her shoes were off, her body language relaxed. No pitch decks, no strategy sessions, just 2 people who had done this before. And I got it all. The lens capture enough. Not for a lawsuit, maybe, but for her, more than enough. I went home after that. Got into bed without turning on the lights. Laid still, eyes open, waiting. At 2:03 a.m., the garage door opened. She moved through the house softly, like a thief avoiding creaky floorboards. She climbed into bed without a word. Let out a sigh. One of those long, easy sighs that people make after putting kids to bed or after spending the night in another man's arms. She did not touch me. She did not try to kiss me. She just curled up and fell asleep. Like nothing happened. The next morning, I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, avocado, just how she liked it. Poured her coffee. Kissed the top of her head. She smiled. Like she had won. You're in a good mood today, she said with a smirk. I smiled right back. Of course, I said. I have never seen you this confident. She started to respond, but paused. Something flickered in her expression again, something that did not quite land. Her smile wavered for a second, then recovered. Thank you, she said. That means a lot. And it did, because I meant it as a warning. You do not get to be both the liar and the loved one. Not for long. Monday morning came, and something had shifted. Caroline was off. Quiet. Her eyes were dull, her words slower. She barely glanced at the kids' backpacks. Just stirred her yogurt like it was a burden. You all right? I asked. She nodded too quickly. Just tired. That word again. Tired. She used it to explain everything, from why we stopped being intimate to why she was emotionally vacant. It had become her shield, a way to hide behind excuses. But she was beginning to crack, and I had not even started. That afternoon, I met with Lorraine Drake, divorce attorney. Sharp. No fluff. She handled high-profile splits, cases with scandal, reputation, and media fallout. I told her what I had. I want the truth to gut her life from the inside, I said. Quietly, thoroughly. Lorraine did not blink. Do you want the world to see it? No, I said. I want her to believe she is safe, right up until she is not. She smiled. Messier, but much more effective. The next morning, I got a message from one of my contacts at her firm. Not someone close to her, just someone I had dropped a few comments to over time. Hints about stress, about Caroline being distant, about long hours and strange trips. What I received was a calendar invite. Another client meeting. Next Thursday. But this one? It was not under Mark Devereaux's name. She had changed the calendar entry. No longer labeled as a client meeting. This one was called a personal errand. And the time? 9:30 p.m. at a trendy hotel lounge downtown. I printed it out, slid it into a folder, and tucked it beneath the others. The stack was growing, but I needed one last piece. One more nail in the coffin. So I went to see Mark. He had no idea who I was. That was the point. I waited outside his office tower, blending in with the crowd. Business casual, clean cut, nothing to make me stand out. "You're Mark, right?" I asked, smiling like I recognized him from somewhere online. He paused. "Yeah. Do we know each other?" "Not yet," I said. "But we share a connection." Caroline. That name did something to his face. A flicker. A flinch. Barely noticeable, unless you were looking for it. I just wanted to meet the man who thought he could sleep his way into a contract, I said quietly, taking a step closer. His jaw tightened. "What did you say?" I handed him an envelope. No photos. Not yet. Just a printed copy of Caroline's company's anti-fraternization policy and a typed-out draft of a formal complaint, and signed, but real enough to make him sweat. "I would take the next few days to rethink whatever deal you think you are part of," I said calmly. "Because the woman you are in bed with is about to have a very long conversation with human resources." And then I turned and walked away. I did not care if he told her. I wanted him to. I wanted the panic to spread. I wanted them scrambling, trying to line up their stories when the timeline was already cracked. That night, Caroline came home earlier than usual. She looked off, pale, nervous. She asked if I was mad at her. First time she had shown concern in months. "Why would I be?" I asked, tilting my head, playing dumb. "I do not know," she said. "You just seem distant." "I'm just proud of you," I said, setting down my glass. "You're doing great things at work. I'm trying not to get in the way." She watched me carefully, like she was trying to read a language she no longer understood. She was looking for signs, any clue that I knew. That is what liars do. They start seeing every quiet moment as a threat. "Everything's okay?" she asked again. I walked over, kissed the top of her head. "Everything is just beginning," I whispered. That night, she stayed up later than usual, pretending to scroll. I feigned sleep. Around midnight, she left the room. I heard her moving through the hall, the faint slide of a vent cover opening in the guest room, the quiet clink of something being tucked away. Still hiding, still lying. She was not even trying to stop. I did not need her to anymore, because I already had the ending in my hands. All I had to do was let it play out. Mark stopped replying. That was the first move. I watched the logs on the burner phone, silent for days, then one lonely message late Monday night. "We need to talk. Please don't ignore me." Then Tuesday. "What is happening? Call me." Then nothing. The silence was the loudest sound in the room. Her mood started to turn. Her appetite dropped. She drank more wine, came home late, left early, but the shine she used to carry when she walked through the door gone. I made sure of that. Wednesday morning, Joy, her boss, received a plain envelope. No sender, no message, just the following items. Asterisk, a printed room service receipt from the Grandfield Hotel. Asterisk, a copy of Caroline's personal calendar, with personal errand highlighted in red. Asterisk, a printout of the company's policy on romantic relationships. Asterisk, in one photo. Just one. Caroline and Mark on the balcony, close, sharing a kiss. Not enough to end her career, but just enough to light the fuse. That night, she came home looking hollow. She barely spoke, pushed food around her plate, sipped wine she never finished. The kids noticed, asked if she felt sick. She said she was fine, just tired, but I had seen that look before. That was the face of someone who just realized their secrets were bleeding through the cracks. Thursday morning, she put on her best suit. Hair done just right. Makeup perfect. I asked if she had anything big scheduled. She paused. Too long. Then, just a performance review. I smiled. Sounds important. She nodded, but avoided my eyes. I did not follow her to work that day. I did not need to. Lorraine, my lawyer, had a contact in building security. Caroline spent over an hour behind a closed door with human resources and 2 senior staff. No one said what it was about. But when she came home, she walked straight into the bathroom and threw up. She never said a word. I kissed her forehead, told her to take it easy, offered to draw her a bath. She nodded, almost like she was relieved, like she still believed I was her safe place. That almost made me laugh. She had no idea I was the one dismantling the roof over her head. The next morning, I pulled the trigger. No fight, no yelling, just a text. "We need to talk. I found something in the vent." She replied in under a minute. "What are you talking about?" "Which vent?" I did not answer. "Let's sit," Let's stew. Let her mind chew through every version of what I might have found. At 11 a.m., she tried calling. I ignored it. At 11:30, another message. Please, tell me what you found. I waited 5 more minutes, then sent her a photo. The burner phone, lying face down on my desk beside a mug of coffee, and a copy of our marriage license. No words, just the image. She said nothing back. No text, no call, just silence. But I felt the shift. I heard her car pull into the driveway that evening. She did not get out right away, just sat there, like she was waiting for courage to show up and ride in with her. When she finally walked in, her heels echoed across the floor like a warning bell. She found me in the kitchen. She did not speak, just stood there, lips tight, eyes hollow. Finally, she choked out the words. I can explain. I looked her in the eye and said it, plain as daylight. Don't. She swallowed, her voice barely hanging on. It's not what you think. Stop. I cut her off, calm and flat. I don't want your spin. Just the truth. For a second, she froze like she might double down. But instead, she reached into her purse, pulled out the burner phone, and placed it on the counter. Like she thought that was some grand gesture. A peace offering. A confession sealed in plastic and metal. She had no idea I'd already copied everything. I was scared, she said. Joy made it sound like if I didn't, we'd lose the whole deal. I raised my hand. Let me ask you one thing. Was sleeping with him your prize for the contract? Or had it already started before the job came into it? She hesitated. That silence was all I needed. I was going to stop, she said quietly, barely above a whisper. You did, right after he stopped calling you. Her face collapsed. I picked up my drink and moved past her, paused in the doorway and glanced back. We're going to get through this weekend like everything's normal for the kids. But come Monday, your world changes. Her voice trembled. What are you going to do? I did not answer, because this wasn't about what I was going to do. It was about what I had already done. That weekend, the house was peaceful in that fake way a stage set is: clean, quiet, unnatural. She stayed in character. The doting mother. The patient wife. She lingered too long when she walked past me. Laughed too loudly at the kids' silly stories. She kept trying to patch up a boat I had already sunk. I let her try. Saturday night, I read to the kids like I always did. Same chapter. Same voices. Same bedtime kisses. But I knew it was the last time any of it would feel whole. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me, like she wanted me to look over and forgive her with a glance. I didn't. Sunday morning, I got up early, showered, and dressed in the same gray suit I had worn to our rehearsal dinner years ago. A small detail, one she didn't notice, but I did it for me. While the kids finished breakfast, I was downtown, walking into Lorraine's office with a manila folder tucked under my arm and a focus sharp enough to cut glass. The timing was everything. At precisely 10 a.m. the next morning, Caroline would be served, right there at her desk. 2 uniformed process servers, polite but firm, would knock on her office door. She would think it was a delivery, maybe someone dropping off a document. Instead, they would hand her a thick envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Grounds? Marital misconduct. Attached was a complaint prepared against her employer for ethical violations, backed by photos, text logs, timestamp calendar events, and, thanks to Lorraine's network, a quietly obtained HR meeting summary from the week before. At the same time, Mark would get a courier delivery at his office. Different packaging, same intent. Included were documents mapping his involvement in a potential breach of fiduciary ethics. Names, dates, hotel bills. A brief, cold letter addressed to his board, outlining the way he had manipulated business boundaries and used personal relationships for gain. Not threats, just truth, properly dressed and fully documented. Caroline had no idea about the financial safeguards I had set up. The accounts moved. The revised living trust. The clause in our prenup she never bothered to reread. The one that removed her claim to joint assets in the event of infidelity. She had skimmed the summary years ago, probably thinking it would never matter. But I had read it. I had made sure it was airtight. By Sunday evening, every domino was lined up. The kids were in bed. She was brushing her hair in the mirror, saying nothing. She looked hollow, eyes rimmed with pink. Her hand shook as it slid the brush through her curls. I told Joy I needed a few days, she said, almost like a question. Oh, I replied. She said that was fine. I think, I think she knows something. She does, I said. So does everyone else. She turned to me then, slowly, like she was walking into a wave she knew she couldn't stand against. What did you do? She whispered. I handed her a photograph. Mark and her, on the balcony, his mouth against her neck. Her face frozen mid-laugh. Her knees wobbled. I reached out, caught her wrist, and lowered her gently onto the bed. She stared at the photo like it was written in a language she had never seen before. This does not have to go public, I said. Sign the settlement. Give up alimony. Let me keep the house. I get custody. Quiet. Clean. Your name stays out of the complaint. Tears spilled fast. But the kids, they will be all right. Because they'll have one parent who did not trade them for a hotel key. She started to speak again, but her voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt you. I stood. You didn't care if you did. I left her like that. Head bowed, fingers clutched around the image of her own downfall. Not because I hated her, because I was finally done loving her. Monday morning, 9:58 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Lorraine. All delivered. HR pulled her again. Mark's office confirmed they received everything. You did good. I let the phone sit in my palm a while. Just sat there in the quiet. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence. That kind of silence you only notice when the chaos finally stops humming in the background. At 6:45 that night, Caroline texted, "Can we talk?" I looked at the screen for a long time. Then I flipped the phone over and poured myself a drink. Let her sit with the silence. Let her finally hear it scream. And it stayed quiet. For 3 full days. No knocks on the door. No late-night conversations. No whispered attempts to mend something that was long dead. She didn't leave. That surprised me. I figured she would pack a bag and vanish to her sister's, a hotel, anywhere but here. But she stayed. She drifted through the house like a shadow, pale and still. She barely spoke, barely ate, still wore her wedding ring. Maybe she thought this was something grief could fix. Maybe she thought a week of silence would buy her back a lifetime. She didn't know I'd already filed. This wasn't a discussion. It was a sentence. The kids felt it too. You can't hide this sort of thing from children. They might not understand the details, but they know when warmth turns cold, when hugs disappear, when the laughter stops before it reaches the corners of the room. And I wasn't going to let her tell that story her way. So Friday night, I sat them down. Just me and them. On the couch. Sonia clutching her stuffed bear. James fiddling with the drawstring on his hoodie. I want to tell you something important, I said gently. Mommy and I, we're going to be living in different homes for a while. James looked up. Are you getting a divorce? I nodded. Yes. Sonia's eyes filled with tears. Did we do something wrong? I pulled them close. You two are perfect. This has nothing to do with you. Not even a little bit. James asked if they would still see her. Yes, I said. You will. But most of the time you'll stay here. With me. That part was hard. Because the truth is, Caroline loved them. She did. She packed lunches and made pancakes and showed up to parent-teacher meetings. But I couldn't look at her without seeing what she did. I couldn't hear her voice without remembering every lie it carried. After I tucked them in, I found her in the kitchen. She was staring into a glass of wine, untouched. You told them, she said. I did. She nodded. Did you tell them why? No, I said. That part's yours. When you're ready. But they know something's broken. I didn't want this, she whispered. You didn't want to get caught. I thought I was protecting us. I thought. Stop. She went silent. For the first time in weeks, she had no defense. Just the weight of what she had done. She left the next morning. One suitcase. A short goodbye to the kids. No tears for me. She knew better. I watched her leave from the front porch. I thought that would be the end. But it wasn't. Because just after midnight, when the house was still and the world had gone quiet, my phone rang. No name. No message. Just a number I didn't recognize. I let it go. Then it rang again. And this time, I picked up. The voice on the other end was low. Careful. Is this... Gary? I did not say a word. This is Mark. Still nothing for me. I let the silence chew on him for a bit. I didn't know, he continued. Not at first. About the marriage. The kids. She said she was separated. Said things were already over. Stop talking, I said. And he did. I took a breath, not because I needed it, but because it helped slow the heat that wanted to rise. What is it you want, Mark? I want to make things right. I let out a short laugh, dry and hollow. You can't, I said, and I don't need whatever version of sorry you think matters. He paused. I get it, but just so you know, I'm stepping down from a company. The board made the decision last night. I'll be out by the end of the quarter. Then he added, I was selfish. I should have asked more questions. I should have seen it for what it was. I hung up, let him sit with the guilt, let him drag that weight around like a stone in his chest. It was his to carry, not mine. That night, I sat out back on the deck, glass of bourbon in my hand, legs stretched out toward the yard. The air was still, quiet. I thought I'd feel some kind of relief. What I felt was tired. Not the kind of tired she used to say when she got caught in her lies, when tired was her shield. No, this was a different kind of tired. Honest. Heavy. The weight of truth and time pressing down all at once. The paperwork was in. Custody was mine. The damage was done. And I had walked away holding everything but the pain. From the outside, I had one. But sitting there, under the dark sky, the real truth settled in. Winning doesn't mean healing. And justice doesn't always bring peace. The days rolled by in that strange, hollow way they do after a storm passes. Nothing was broken anymore, but nothing really felt right either. The house had gone quiet, but not in a warm, peaceful way. It was more like walking through a museum of things that used to matter. No noise, just a memory of sound. I kept myself moving. I finished the legal work, closed the accounts, changed the locks, built a new routine for the kids, packed up what she left behind. I folded every shirt, every piece of her old life, and put them in labeled boxes. Neat, detached, clinical. She never came to get them. Sent movers instead. 2 college-age guys showed up with blank expressions and a rented truck. I stood on the porch while they hauled out the last reminders of a life that, looking back, had already ended long before she walked out. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. Pain does not leave cleanly. It does not check the calendar or follow a schedule. It stays. It lingers in your chest and sneaks into the quietest hours. And worse, it makes you remember. I kept thinking about what Mark said. I didn't know, not at first. And I believed him. That was what got under my skin the most. I actually believed the man. I remember the early messages I found, the ones before anything physical had happened. Back when the lies were just forming. When she described me as distant, cold, absent. She told him I barely touched her anymore. That I buried myself in work. That I didn't see her. Some of that was true. I had been working too much. Missing things. Losing track of small moments. But I thought she'd stay. I thought we were partners. That we'd weather the dull parts together. Instead, she found someone to make her feel seen again. That does not excuse her. Not for a second, but it explained her. And those are 2 very different things. Friends said I should try dating. That I deserved to be happy again. Some even offered to introduce me to someone. Just dinner, nothing serious. Michelle, my assistant, the one who had been my rock through this whole mess, even hinted at grabbing drinks one night, just to get out of the house. But I was not ready. Because even after she left, even after the lies had stopped, I still lived with the shadow of it all. The house carried it. The kids carried it. I carried it. It was not just the betrayal I mourned. It was the woman she used to be. And that part still hurt. Then one Thursday morning, there was a letter, tucked between the usual bills and junk mail. No return address. Folded tight. Handwritten. It just said, Gary, I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I only want to say something that no one else ever will. I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. Even while I was doing everything wrong, I kept thinking of you. Hoping, stupidly, selfishly, that you would find out and stop me. That you'd burn it all down and make the decision for me. You were always the steady one. The strong one. I didn't leave because I stopped needing you. I left because I knew I didn't deserve to need you anymore. I will carry the shame forever. Not just for what I did to you, but for what I turned myself into. I hope you find peace, even if I never will. Caroline. I held that letter in my hand for a long time. Not because it changed anything. It didn't. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not relief. Just a kind of emptiness that lets you know the ache is finally quiet. The part of me that used to wait for her to explain? Gone. The part that used to need her to apologize? Gone. Whatever fire had kept that hope alive, it had burned out. What was left? Stillness. A strange kind of peace. Months passed. I kept the house, put up a new fence, changed out the bedroom furniture. I started coaching James's soccer team. Sonia and I went to ballet classes on Saturday mornings. Slowly, without realizing it, life started breathing again. One day after practice, Michelle showed up at the field. She was not wearing heels or a blazer, just jeans, sneakers, a hoodie, and a smile. She handed me a coffee. "You look like you needed it," she said. I nodded. "You're not wrong." We sat on the bleachers and watched the kids run wild. She looked over after a while and said, You do not have to stay frozen forever. You can live again, Gary." I took a sip of the coffee. Thought about that for a while. "I'm not sure I know how," I said. She smiled, soft and steady. "Then I guess we figure it out." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time, not as someone who helped me through the wreckage, but as someone who never flinched when it fell. And in that moment, I did not feel broken. I just felt unfinished. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.